When she was just 3 years old, her parents noticed something unusual. She fell. Hard. The kind of fall that would make most children cry instantly. But she didn't. She stood up, looked around, and kept walking. No tears. No reaction. At first, it seemed strange. Then it became terrifying. Because over the next few years, this little girl would suffer injuries that should have been unbearable. Broken bones, severe burns, deep cuts. And through all of it, she never felt pain. Nobody predicted what sounded like a rare gift or a superpower would turn out to be something that would make her life very vulnerable.
MedLore presents The Girl Who Couldn't Feel Pain. In a quiet town in Georgia, where afternoons stretched lazily under the weight of warm air and the sound of cicadas filled the evenings, there lived a little girl named Ashlyn. The neighborhood was the kind where nothing unexpected ever really happened. The same cars parked outside the same houses, the same people waving as they passed by, the same rhythm day after day. And inside one of those homes, life followed that rhythm almost perfectly. Ashlyn was just a child, small, energetic, always exploring. She had a habit of wandering, touching things, picking them up, asking questions that didn't always have simple answers. Why is the floor cold here but warm there? Why does water feel different when it's moving? Why do some things hurt and others don't? At the time, those questions seemed innocent, normal, the kind of curiosity every child carries. Her parents never imagined that one of those questions would quietly define her entire life. She was about 3 years old when the first moment happened. It was a simple afternoon, sunlight coming in through the window, the faint hum of a television playing somewhere in the background. Ashlyn was running across the living room when her foot caught the edge of a rug. She fell. Not gently, not the kind of fall you can ignore. Her body hit the floor with a sharp, sudden impact. Her mother turned immediately. There's a moment every parent recognizes, the pause right after a fall. The moment where you wait for the cry. It always comes. Except this time, it didn't. Ashlyn pushed herself up, looked around, and walked away. Her mother blinked. "Did you see that?" Her father glanced over briefly. "She's okay," he said. "Kids fall all the time." And he was right. So they moved on. But something about it lingered. Not enough to worry, just enough to remember.
Over the next few weeks, the pattern repeated. A bump into the edge of a table. No reaction. A fall from a chair. No tears. A toy thrown too hard, hitting her arm. Nothing. Not even a flinch. "Maybe she's just tough," her father said one evening. Her mother nodded slowly. Maybe. But there was uncertainty in her voice now. A quiet discomfort that hadn't been there before. Then came the moment they couldn't ignore. It was early evening. The kitchen was filled with the soft sounds of cooking, oil sizzling, utensils clinking, the low rhythm of a normal day winding down. The stove had just been turned off. Still hot. Still dangerous. Ashlyn walked in. Quietly. Curious as always. She looked up at the stovetop. Reached out. Curiously. And placed her hand directly on it. For a second, nothing happened. Then her mother saw it. "Ashlyn!" She rushed forward, grabbing her hand and pulling it away. The damage had already begun. The skin was red, angry, beginning to swell. Tiny blisters forming under the surface. "Oh my God! Ashlyn, why didn't you move?" Ashlyn looked up at her. Calm. Confused. It didn't hurt. That sentence stayed in the room long after it was spoken. Later that night, the house felt different. Quieter. Heavier. Her parents sat across from her, trying to understand. "What do you mean it didn't hurt?" her father asked gently. She shrugged. "I felt it, but it didn't hurt." Her mother leaned forward. "Did it feel hot?" "Yes." "But it didn't hurt?" "No." The next morning, they went to the doctor. The examination room was small. bright, clinical. The kind of place where answers are supposed to come easily. The doctor crouched in front of Ashlyn. "Can you feel this?" he asked, pressing lightly against her arm. "Yes." "What about this?" "A little more pressure." "Yes." Then he picked up something sharper. Not dangerous, but enough to provoke a reaction. He pressed it gently against her skin, then slightly deeper. Ashlyn watched, unbothered. "No pain?" he asked. She shook her head. The doctor stood up slowly. Something in his expression had changed. "What does that mean?" her mother asked. The doctor hesitated. "It means her body is receiving signals," he said carefully. "But her brain isn't processing them as pain." The tests that followed were extensive. Days turned into weeks. Neurological exams, sensory mapping, genetic testing. Each result narrowing the possibilities. Each answer leading to a conclusion they weren't prepared for. "Congenital insensitivity to pain," the doctor finally said. Her father frowned. "I've never heard of that." "It's rare," the doctor replied. "Very rare." At first, it didn't sound like something to fear. No pain? No suffering? No discomfort? It almost sounded like an advantage. But reality doesn't work that way. A few months later, Ashlyn started walking differently. A slight limp. Barely noticeable at first. "Did you fall?" her mother asked. "No." "Did something hurt?" "No." But the limp didn't go away. So they took her back. The X-ray told the truth. A fracture. Clean. Serious. And completely ignored. "She's been walking on this?" her father asked, stunned. "Yes," the doctor said. "She wouldn't know to stop. In a normal body, pain begins the moment something goes wrong. Tiny sensors in the skin detect damage and send signals through the nerves, up the spinal cord and into the brain. That's what creates the feeling we recognize as pain. It's fast, automatic, protective. But in Ashlyn's case, that signal never arrived. That's when everything became real. Pain isn't just something we feel, it's something that protects us. It tells us when to stop, when to rest, when something is wrong. Ashlyn didn't have that. Their home changed, slowly at first, then completely. Corners were padded, surfaces were monitored, hot objects were kept out of reach. Every part of the environment had to be controlled because her body wouldn't protect her. "Check your hands," her mother would say every night. "Look carefully." Ashlyn would sit quietly, turning them over, inspecting them the way most children never have to. One evening, her mother noticed something small. "Ashlyn, come here." Her eye looked irritated, red, watery. "Does it hurt?" "No." At the hospital, the answer was immediate, a severe corneal abrasion. She had scratched her eye, badly, and never felt it happen. "How is that possible?" her father asked. The doctor leaned back. "There's a pathway in the body," he explained. "Nerves send signals to the brain. Pain is one of those signals. In her case, that pathway doesn't function properly, so the injury happens, but the warning never arrives. And that's what makes this condition so dangerous." Ashlyn grew up learning something most people never think about: how to live without instinct, how to replace pain with awareness, how to look for danger instead of feeling it. Other children learned through experience. A burn teaches you to avoid heat. A fall teaches you to be careful. Pain creates memory. Memory creates safety. Ashlyn had to build that system herself, from observation, from routine, from constant awareness, because her body wouldn't do it for her. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all, because pain, something we all complain about, something we try to avoid, is actually one of the most important systems we have. It protects you, warns you, guides you. Without it, the human body becomes fragile in ways we rarely understand. So the next time something hurts, a burn, a cut, a headache, it might be worth remembering. That feeling is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's protecting you. Because for Ashlyn, that protection never existed. That's what makes her stories so powerful. Not because she was stronger than everyone else, but because she had to live without something most of us rely on every single day. If you enjoy deep, real medical stories like this, consider subscribing to MedLore, because sometimes the most extraordinary conditions are the ones that take away something we thought we didn't need. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe.